All right. Hi, everybody. This is another edition of Tops, the Titans of Publishing show. I'm Bill Davis. I'm here with Marc Harty. Say hi, Marc.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday.
Hey, and we're going to try to keep this to 20 to 30 minutes, so just don't despair. And what we're going to talk about today is a question that I think all of us ask ourselves from time to time, and that is what? What is that question? What is the number one skill that you need as an online marketer? That's the question.
That is the question. That's not the $64,000 question. That's $1 million. It's a multi-million dollar question.
The sky's the limit. If you can manifest it, it'll be there.
And if you go into space, the sky isn't actually the limit. So there's that. That's on my bucket list, but I don't know if I'm going to make it. So, but maybe if I make enough money, who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? You could fly into space, and that would be awesome. Um, all right, so getting to it. What is the number one skill that you need as an online marketer, and what's your answer, Marc? And I'll see if I have the same answer.
Okay. All right. So this is, just so this wasn't off the top of my head. I got up in the morning and I was having breakfast and I had an epiphany. This was really something that actually came to me after about, a year and a half of testing. And I kind of knew that this was the skill, but the year and a half of testing confirmed it. And that is the number one skill you have to, right now and in the future, certainly, to succeed online is, wait for it, agility. And I don't mean touching your toes.
So tell me what agility means to you, and then I'll tell you my answer.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. You could say, okay, the number one skill is copyright. You can say the number one skill is, having, ability to connect with people on video. You could say, you could kind of go through all the different marketing channels and vehicles. And yet what I find is that's too tactical, that's too linear, and that's kind of putting things in silos. And what you really see, the companies that succeed, the businesses that succeed, the people that succeed, they're able to be agile. So, for example, if you have to change gears quickly, if you have a campaign in no matter whatever media and it doesn't work and you don't want to just kill it. You're like, I need to change course. You got to be agile, but you don't want to be knee jerk. So you have to have the ability to anticipate that things are not going to go as you expect. So that's just one kind of aspect of agility. I have others, but I'd love to hear just some immediate feedback before I get any more granular.
Well, agility is really the ability to move quickly and easily, right? It's kind of analog or runs alongside adaptability, being able to adapt to your environment and react quickly. And I was gonna give a goofy answer and say the number one skill you need as an online marketer. Write this down. I'll wait. You need to master copy paste. I'm kidding.
You really set me up there.
No, I tend to agree that agility, being agile, being able to move when the market or your industry or your niche dictates is a huge skill to have. I'm not, I always get confused or conflicted with what's a skill versus what's a talent versus what's a learned versus inherent. But it is something you need to be able to do in order to not only be successful but to last in this.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to get into all the there are all sorts of kind of mindset things that happen with agility, because when you have agility, you don't have these obstacles or these mental blocks that say, well, I can't do this, or I wish I could do blank. You just have the confidence to say, you know what, it's okay. I was going to go down path A, and now I'm going to go down path B.
Yeah. Yeah. And has anybody heard this term or this phrase? Money loves speed. You
Yeah.
know, it's true when and I want to come back to this because I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, you can't, it sounds like agility means being reactive rather than active, or that ridiculous word proactive. Um, let's get back to that. But you need to be able to adapt or adjust to things that are going on in whatever space you're in, right? Like, um, people who took the bull by the horns and decided to go with one of the streaming services, like the Snapchat or Facebook Live or whatever. The people who were like the first movers with that built a pretty big audience pretty quickly and became the go-to person or people for that. So that's huge, right? A lot of people are, I don't want to say stuck, but they didn't, and maybe they don't want to, but if you see an emerging trend happening, it's probably better to kind of ride the wave as it crests rather than jump on board when it's crashing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that almost makes me want to get into another rant about how marketers, expression, they sell on the way out. They do stuff for themselves. It works, starts losing effectiveness, and like, hey, I'll teach it. So, but I don't want to go there because I want to focus on what you said, which I think was a really good point about that. It's not just a matter of being reactive. It could be, and we, proactive. We can kind of, say these aren't the exact terms, but you hit on it. Where is when, it's one of those things that, if you want to use the metaphor, chess, you're thinking a few moves ahead, where that agility, maybe it's at a subconscious level. That agility gives you confidence, and it makes, you're not so attached to specific outcomes that you can kind of, maybe see things that other people don't. And I don't mean in a delusional way.
Right. The whole time we're talking here, and I'm a sports guy. I'm thinking in terms of like a running back on a football field. You know, the ultimate goal for all of us is to score that touchdown, right? But there are many ways to get there. And you think of a guy like, like a Gale Sayers, or name somebody current, I can't think of anybody offhand, but somebody who has vision, kind of like eyes in the back of their heads. They're really good at this thing we call agility. And they're also very agile in terms of physical capabilities, but they're agile in terms of being able to see what's going on and adjust to it. And I think that's, cut here, zig there, zag there. And I think that's really important.
Okay, here's something that you just triggered. And I know that it's like, hey, we're going from the abstract to the concrete. That's okay, because we're really at this point just wanting to communicate the concept. I would make the point that, agility in terms of problem solving. So, I'll give you an example. I mean, I was reading a book. It's a personal development book. I read it years ago. And I reread it every like 5 years just to make sure I could kind of stay on track. If I get off track, get back on track. And they were, the point the author made is you always have more options than you think. People get boxed in and they're like, I don't have any other choice. Well, yeah, you do actually. So, having that agility to not be so, rigid in thinking, stepping back and saying, asking, it's kind of like, I know I'm kind of getting into a lot of personal development stuff. Tony Robbins would say, never ask why questions because they're not powerful. Ask what questions, ask how questions, because why, it's like, why didn't this work? Okay, now you're going to go down a path which is helpful. It's like you want to learn from your mistakes, but, it'd be much more powerful to say, what can I learn from this and put it towards, my next whatever, my next campaign, my next job, whatever you have.
Yeah, just to follow along on that, I'm certainly not in the Tony Robbins camp. I will never walk on fire. But the I at heart I'm kind of a problem solving person, and I do ask the why, but I always follow that up with the well, okay, so we know the root cause, we know what happened. Now, how do we mitigate that risk in the future, and how do we improve and move on? So, like you said, I mean, there's always more than one option. In any decision, to me, there's always I can do something, and it could be these 10 things, or I could choose not to do a thing. That's a choice, and
Right.
sometimes that's the best choice. You know, the flip side to this agility thing, and if people take it to the extreme, and that is, we don't want to tell people that you need to jump from this thing to that thing to that thing to that thing. That's
No,
not the idea here.
no,
It's
it's not.
being able
Yeah, go ahead.
to adapt, adjust, still see the end zone, and still do your best to make it there.
Well, let me give you a practical example, because we said the number one skill for online marketing, and obviously we talked about the number one skill in life, in life management, managing your life, managing your business. Say that you have a really good presence in one social media channel. Say it's Facebook. Um, an agile response would be, okay, I'm going, as proficient as I am in Facebook, and obviously I'm just being hypothetical using this as an example. You're more proficient than I am. I'm going to look at one of two options. I'm going to look at another social media channel that's complementary to Facebook, where I can take maybe a lot of the things I've learned in terms of publishing content, sharing, what have you, and I'm going to take it over to this other, this other thing. Maybe that other thing is Instagram. Or you could say, you know what? I'm agile enough that I'm willing to kind of, not necessarily start at ground zero, but I'm going to start in a social media channel where I may be not up to speed as I am in this other one. So, but I'm doing it for this reason. I'm doing it because it's going to reach a different audience. So I'll give you an example. I was on a call with a business prospect, and they're all over, LinkedIn, because it's kind of a B2B company. And I'm not advocating that they go to Facebook, but I can see just from their posts that, there's some other things that they can do if they were more agile. So, they were all over the place. I mean, they were saying, we don't have a plan, we don't have this. And by the end of the call, I was able to say, let's find the early win. What's an early win look like? If we don't have to plan for the entire year and do what can we do for the next 4 to 6 weeks? So it really kind of changed their mindset, because they couldn't get their arms around this. They've been struggling, and now I've just kind of said, well, let's be agile and do something fast, because that way the CEO of the company is more likely to get on board.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that I think one of the biggest advantages to being agile is contrast with big company versus small company. Think of, like, in the old days it was IBM, or maybe today it's Microsoft. A big behemoth of a company. How fast, and you can look, how fast can they move? How fast can they bring something to market? They're pretty slow. Look how long it took Microsoft to embrace the internet. It took forever. They've the only innovation they've had in the last few years, besides like a gaming device like Xbox, is through acquisition. They bought Skype. Well, I know a lot of marketers use Skype, but Skype hasn't evolved in freaking 15 years. I may be exaggerating, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Think of yourself. I pulled down this book. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I've got that. Small is the new big.
Because as a small, maybe you're a solopreneur, or you're on a small team or whatever, but you're not Microsoft. You don't have tens of thousands of employees. You can move really fast. If you see a trend that you want to embrace, or you want to take the challenge, you could do it without a lot of fanfare, a lot of budget. You could just do things a lot quicker. And look at the people who have like really innovated in the last few years in terms of technology. Twitter started by one guy with a lot of money, but it's a simple little kind of a stupid product. We're going to limit you to 140 characters, but it works, and that was innovation. He saw a need, he filled it, and essentially he's moved on for the most part.
You triggered something that I want to make sure that we re-emphasize, and I have an actual example from my which actually got me on the map in terms of internet marketing, online marketing, whatever we call it. And it's actually in a book that I'm reading. The book is about how to position yourself as an expert. And what they're really talking about is chunking down. You're not. I mean, I'll give you my example. So back in, God, I can't believe it's been this long, 2005. I wanted to do a really big information product, and I was doing a lot of different online marketing techniques, SEO, pay-per-click, email, website marketing, and I was doing press releases. So, I could have said, the big umbrella is online marketing. Okay, then you chunk it down a little bit further, and it's PR and publicity. Then you chunk it down a little bit further, and it's online PR. And then you chuck it down a little bit further, and I'm like, digital press releases, and then the twist that I gave is, at the time, everybody was saying, hey, you got to use PR to reach the media. And I'm like, hey, you can, if you get the media, great, you can use PR to reach your prospect or your customer directly. And so that, and what made me think of that is your example about Twitter, where they didn't try to be everything to everybody. It's just a very little simple thing. And yet it's a way to kind of immediately get recognition. And actually you can use that, and maybe instead of putting all your eggs in one basket and say, I'm going to be, Mr., or Ms. or Mrs., multi-talented person. Maybe you could have a couple individual things where you really get an ability to be an expert, because, you're not trying to be everything to everybody. So, that was also kind of followed up on what you said earlier about, we're not talking about being a jack of all trades. We're talking about having the ability, we talked about the ability, and then what do you do with that ability, which is putting it towards a specific outcome. And I think that's where the conversation's been now. And so, I mean, I think, having that skill today, having that skill tomorrow is going to do everybody good.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want to add, or do you want to wrap up? Or
I was going to ask you. We have a little bonus, or I guess a little kind of, how agile do you really think you are? And you want to talk about the survey?
Let's talk about the survey. So, what is the survey you're talking about, and how would somebody take it?
Okay, all right. So, we give these little nuggets, these little gems, and sometimes maybe it's not as actionable as people would like. So I thought for this show, we would have kind of to help you really kind of understand where you are in terms of your marketing agility, in terms of your online marketing skills, created a survey. And we'll put the link in in the thread with this video, but it's a very simple survey. A lot of the, I think 80% of the questions are, you don't even have to write an answer. You basically, on a scale of 1 to 5, and you just kind of rank yourself. And I think it would be a good, and I branded the survey, I've called it the Marketing Agility Primer, or MAP, which, the acronym works too, because you're really trying to map your agility. And if nothing else, it's just kind of a starting point. So you can kind of benchmark where you are. And it maybe make you think, hey, I'm going to kind of step back, look at my marketing, and maybe there are some ways I can become more agile, and they're in these areas. So that's the nutshell on the survey.
Okay. So we'll put the link in I guess the comments after we render this dealio. You can take it. You'll get your score or grade or whatever, and that'll tell you. And I haven't had a chance to take it yet, so it'll be interesting to see how I fare.
Well, just to kind of manage expectations, there isn't necessarily a score. It's really just kind of where are you, and it's just to kind of have a rather than kind of have a subjective kind of evaluation. It really kind of says, okay, I'm really being honest with myself, and here's where I'm at. And it's okay. 5 is the best, and 1 is the least. Hey, it's okay being a 1, because you know what? You can't be a 0 on the survey. It's not on the scale.
No losers on the survey. There you go. That's your feel-good tip of the week.
One of many, I'm sure.
All right. So, anything you want to say in closing? I think this was good. I think a lot of us are not as agile as we probably could be. And I think it is a skill that you can learn if you practice and if you're conscious of it.
Yeah, it's like, and I'll just give you one little anecdote. I read a book called Practical Intuition, and it was how to kind of actually, if you looked at your intuition as a muscle, how could you actually, strengthen that muscle? And it was basically just use your intuition and see if you're right or not. So, for example, when I was at this, I was always going into office buildings with a bank of 6 elevators. I'd always go over by the elevator to the one that I thought would arrive first. Or if you're in the grocery store, you go in the line which you think is going to move the fastest. And if nothing else, it's kind of a way to have fun. So that may be just kind of a little thing that's intuition, but it also gets you thinking in different ways. So maybe it's a little thing you could try and have some fun with.
Yeah, I mean, I when you have kids, you tend to make everything a game. We the elevator, and it's like, go ahead, pick which one's gonna be ready first. And we always have fun with that. We do that kind of stuff all the time, and game playing is. I mean, you mentioned chess earlier. It's a lot of fun, but it's also a strategic game,
right,
where you have to be agile, because there's another. Even if you're playing a computer, there's another thing on the side of that table, on the other side of that table, that may make a move and probably will make a move, especially if you're me, because I'm not very good. I don't practice a lot, and that's the key. That's the key, kiddos. Practice. They're gonna make a move that you didn't anticipate, or maybe you anticipated it, but it was like 10th on your list, and then it's like, oh, now what? That didn't go according to my plan. So you got to be able to change your plans and make adjustments, and check the wind and all that good stuff, and see what you need to do to move forward. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully, if you weren't able to watch the live version, you could watch the replay. It's going to be posted on the Titans of Publishing Show Facebook page. It'll be published also on the titansofpublishing.com website, as well as we'll probably share it on, in a few groups and on our respective personal timelines on Facebook. So, there's plenty of opportunity to watch if you want to watch. And if you don't, well, bye.
Always good to end on a threat. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody else. All right. Take care.